This is Hunt Nebraska, the official podcast for insight into Nebraska's hunting and shooting sports community. Be sure to give us a follow on Facebook, our space for sharing stories, information, tips, and techniques. Now, Hunt Nebraska.
Welcome back to Hunt Nebraska. We're back here at the headquarters, the cabin, the lean-to, all that good stuff. It's December, gentlemen. Real quick, Jeff, Jackson, Hunter, and me, Hershey. We're back in studio at least one more time before the end of the year. And it's time to think holidays, guys. I know that you have been out there thinking about this quite a bit, and I know our listeners probably working on that gift list as they're listening to this, probably actually checking out the audio in between stores. That's what I'm guessing. So this is going to be a service announcement for everybody. Again, make sure you give us a like on Facebook at Hunt Nebraska, as well as a follow or subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. But we're going to kind of do this as a public service announcement. We're going to talk about some good gift ideas. And part of that is we're going to talk about some of our favorite gifts that we've got that got us outdoors. Outdoors hunting, maybe shooting, maybe get into fishing or other outdoor pursuits. But we're going to kind of keep this focused on hunting and shooting, just like our Facebook page.
I really thought this was bring your gift list. And I've got mine down to about 40 megabytes now. So I'm getting it to where I think it's ready to hit send.
Save space. You don't have to do all caps. We realize yours important. You can highlight like the top.
The older I get, the more all caps it gets. I don't know. I don't understand that.
Jeff lives in full caps.
Large font, no less than 24. That's why he's gone to 3.
My daughter looked at my phone the other day and she made a comment like that. My gosh, I could read this from across the room. I said, that's the point.
All right, so we're going to kick this off, and I want you guys to think about the last 5 Christmases, all right? Last 5 holiday seasons when you've got some gifts that you received from loved ones, or maybe you bought and wrapped yourself in an extra prize. That counts too. What are some of the better ones that you remember getting that got you outdoors, whether it's hunting, shooting, maybe even fishing or some of those other outdoor endeavors? So Hunter looks like he's deep in thought, but Jackson already knows this one. He's got this figured out.
So mine's not what got me outdoors, but more or less what keeps me outdoors.
Well, that counts.
So it's hands and feet. So
we need more explanation on that.
It has to do. So
extra hands and feet,
gloves, an electric hand warmer.
Electric.
Yeah. Yep. Can recharge it. Ooh. Yeah. You don't have to. The worst part for me with the hand warmers, the
disposable ones.
Disposable ones. Yeah. Yep. They're the loudest package in the world. Every deer in this section hears you open those up.
Yep. Snacks are the same way, Jackson.
Exactly.
Any snack, which you just can't eat in the deer woods with them.
Can you imagine if Little Debbie came with a silent pack right there? All the deer hunters, turkey hunters would just. It'd be a huge market.
Yeah, I need more.
So back to this hand warmer. So how do you charge it up?
It's got a micro USB, I believe is what it's called, charging port, and you charge it just like your phone. Make sure it's charged up, and they don't last. I don't know if you could get 8 hours of them out of the disposable ones, but it's got 3 different settings, so you can have
you can adjust it.
Yep.
I don't know if you've been to his tree stand, but he's got a 3-port right in the tree there. It's he just plugs them right in above the 5th branch. It's pretty cool.
Year over year, I just find myself having to charge more things as I prepare to go on my hunt.
Yeah. Isn't it funny? I mean, who would have thought 10 years ago even I'm getting ready for a hunt. Oh, how many batteries do I have?
I got to charge everything. God.
But you're enjoying that because I've seen some of those chargeable hand warmers, and I got to assume I've never really looked too deeply into them, so it's got to be an electric heat, right? I mean, It's got to be kind of some friction, something going on in there that.
Don't ask me. I plug it in. I make sure it's charged. I hit the button.
I'm not the science guy. Yeah. Just plug it in. It works. If it doesn't work, try another plug-in.
You remember what my major was, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's a good one though, because warmth. I mean, that does keep you out, especially. Yeah. And I love the idea. We get some neat outdoor gifts, but sometimes those that you have to wait 6-8 months to use, it's kind of like, that's cool, but put it away. Yeah. And then sometimes you accidentally forget about it. Yep. But hey, we're in that time when things are supposed to be a little cooler, and sooner or later it's going to get cold here in the state of Nebraska. So that one you can put to use right away.
Yep. That one's been used. Got put to use in January last year, and it's done good.
Now we got to talk gloves. You mentioned that. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I know is I have never found a pair of do-it-all gloves.
No.
It seems to me the more years I hunt and fish outdoors, whatever, the more specialized my gloves get. So have you broke the code? Have you found the perfect set of gloves?
Absolutely not. No, I found ones that I can almost use for everything, and they're kind of a thin pair that are pretty skin tight, so they're pretty, I can be pretty dexterous.
Ambidextrous.
Dexterous.
Dexterity. Yeah, dexterous. I like dexterous.
Yeah, that'll work.
Dexterous.
Anyways, those work pretty well. Again, they're not do-it-all, especially not waterfowl. I mean, especially talking waterfowl, I've got 3 to 4 pairs of gloves that I keep with me at all times. I got, the decoy gloves, the fully waterproof ones, a pair of lightweight shooting gloves. I've got leather gloves for, dragging all the gear in and setting up, and those 3 pair I've always got with me when we're waterfowl hunting.
Yeah.
Yep. And then for deer hunting, I've got a pair of wool gloves at no fingertips, and I really like those for archery hunting.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I'm there. I don't know, Jeff and Hunter, have you guys found the perfect pair of gloves yet? It's kind of like what Jackson's saying, in my opinion.
Yeah, rag wool gloves with the fingers gone are my go-to glove. I like rag wool; it's better than fleece even. Yeah, and no fingers on them so that you can touch things and you can do your phone and you can touch the trigger off and all that good stuff. My hands, I'm kind of an anomaly. I know people, it gets cloudy out and they're, oh Lord, it's cold. They put their hands in their pockets. Me, I don't put gloves on. I don't like wearing gloves, period. But I don't put them on until it's really cold, and then I really like to have my fingertips available. So, and then those gauntlets where you can pull those, they have the fingerless gloves. You can pull the mitt down over the top of them. If it's really cold, those are my go-to winter gloves.
The glow mitts.
Glow mitts.
Glow mitts. Yeah. Oh yeah, those are really pretty versatile.
I think those have been my go-to, but I have multiple pairs of gloves for each season. I think it's kind of a must.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
One of the things I kind of got into, and this was bow hunting more than anything, where you had some of those cold mornings in certain years, and yet you still need to be able to use your hands quite a bit to hold the bow and balance it just like you want to and you're used to shooting, as well as being able to have your finger just nice and early on the string now on the release. I just need that contact. So I've got a really thin pair of gloves, but a muff. I've got a fleece muff.
Those are kind of nice.
That I stick my hands in, and if it's really cold, I toss a couple of hand warmers into. And boy, you talk about toasty.
Yeah.
And it really helps, and then you're able to grab a hold of it. I've done that a little bit for some other things like waterfowl. However, not as much, because they're just a little bit more bulky. Another thing that you have to add to the blind bag and all that type of stuff. Well, and it's a little tougher to take out because pretty soon you're pulling them out and honking and everything. So
usually waders, you've got a high pocket.
Or you just stick your hand in the waders. Like I do a lot of that.
That's
stuff,
a good
standing
point.
around talking, in hands. But we all remember when we were kids going sledding. Mom gave us those big nylon filled of all kinds of polyfill type gloves, and once you got those suckers on, you couldn't grab anything, so you grab the sled like this to try to go up the hill. That those don't work for hunting at all. No. I mean, you've got to have dexterity.
Excellent.
Exactly. I remember this was one of my brother's best friends growing up. Him and I, his name was Eric, went on a pheasant hunt. It was December. I mean, it was just after Christmas, and he got some of those, I don't even know what you call them. They're kind of like mittens, but not just the thumb was by itself, the trigger finger was by itself. Mm-hmm. So it had a really nice, I mean, they were really thickly insulated, but it was the first flush of roosters that we got into that he found out that even though it was separated by itself, way too much insulation to get inside the trigger guard. And my dog did a beautiful job. And he couldn't shoot because he couldn't get his finger in there. So I think he lost the right side of that glove on the first hunt after Christmas pretty fast. So you got to, I mean, that's the thing, though. You've got to test a lot of gloves and find out what works.
And lose a lot. You got to lose a left or a right quite often.
I lost.
Got a whole drawer just assuming they're all going to find their way home someday.
Why is it you always lose the same side, though? I mean, I've got gloves that I bought 2 or 3 pairs because when you find a pair of gloves, buy some more, folks, because they're going to stop making them. They're going to change the pattern. You're going to lose one, whatever. But it seems like when you have 2 pairs that match, you'll lose the left both times, and now you got 2 right-handed gloves, or vice versa. It's just amazing how many, like you said, you got one hand full. So, all right, Jeff, what was your best outdoor gifts that you've got in the last 5 years?
Probably right at 5 years ago. One of my Filson hats. I think the first one I got was a a wax cotton otter green.
That was just
Filson
5
hat.
years ago?
I think the green one was, or not, the green one was earlier, but the orange one, the blaze orange one that I got was probably right at 5 years ago. I'm going to call it that. And you have no right to question it, so I don't want to hear it.
I got no supporting evidence to back my claim that
That's why I'm going to go with
good
it.
storytellers don't let facts get in the way, or
Not
dates.
often. It's
Or
not
dates.
how it happened, Hershey. It's how
My
you
daughter
remember it
was in
happened.
middle school. Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, and I'll be honest with you. This Filson blaze orange hat with the wool liner on the inside is 10 mile cloth on the outside. I'll never forget opening that thing up 5 years ago and looking at that going, man, this puppy is just going to be awesome. And it is. It's my go-to hat. And I'll never forget one year, probably 3 years ago, I was dropping my daughter off somewhere and I pulled out of the parking lot and I remember thinking, God, I think that hat was sitting on the seat by right where she was at. And so as I pulled out of the parking lot, I looked, and sure enough, back in the parking lot, there's a little blotch of orange. So I went back, drove around, went back in the parking lot. There's my hat. It had fallen out of the truck, and I about had a heart attack. I mean, that hat has been through a lot.
All right, Hunter, you're up. 5 years.
I had to think kind of hard about this because, those memories escape your mind quickly if they don't stand out enough. But I came to the conclusion that my best gift was the butt out. And I don't know
Wow.
if you guys have ever used a butt out, but
I
they're
got a whole
super
story.
convenient.
Not to the
For
extent
me.
you must have to be your best gift.
They make the gutting and field dressing process so much easier once you learn how to use them right. I think that's the challenge. Is a lot of people, they get the tool and they don't know how to use it or don't watch a video on how to use it.
I'd have to agree, because do you have the original butt out or do you have the butt out 2?
It's a 2.
It's the 2, so it's got that.
technical here.
It's got that little ending point.
Yep, it's
on
got
the disc,
the ring that
which
is your
made you
stopping point.
make you think that the first one, people were putting it in too far.
Yep.
And it's just like,
Is that
guys,
a
we
problem?
got to come up with a stopper. We got to come up with a stopper, because I can only imagine at the butt out hotline, people calling in with the original
It's
and
gone.
saying, "All right, I bought this. It went in well.
Can't find it.
Yeah, I can't find it. What do I do?" Well, sir, you twist the handle.
Yeah, there is no handle anymore.
There's a Bob. That was a handle.
Now I'm picturing the people in butt out customer service.
That's a common question, sir. You don't go in that far. Here's the deal, though. I tell you, I got a butt out tool right when they came out, and it's funny how your spouse might could care less about the tools you might get for hunting until they wind up in the dishwasher. And the very first time I put that thing in the dishwasher, she understood what that was. It didn't go well. It didn't go well at all.
I've got a little story, because I actually bought for my significant other the predecessor to the butt out tool.
So
It was green.
We may need to explain. Some people may not know what this
Right.
is.
All right, I'm going to let you
think a
explain. All right,
definition
well,
in order at this stage.
Yep.
we'll back up, because I'm not explaining it. So go ahead, Hunter.
I'll do
you
my
brought
best
it up.
here.
Then I got a story.
It's like I would say 6 to 8 inch plastic tool. It's got a handle on it.
Like a T handle.
Yep, a T handle with some serrated edges, and the idea is you insert it into the anal cavity of the deer when you're field dressing the deer.
And we're all biologists here, folks, so we can have these conversations.
Right.
We're sanctioned, yeah.
And those serrated edges, once you get it in there far enough, you give it a twist, and it catches the inside of that canal, and you're able, if you use it correctly, to pull that anal canal out without getting those turds all onto your meat and opening that up.
Because that membrane is pretty soft.
Right.
That anal membrane is pretty soft. When you twist it, it helps quite a bit.
And it's attached at the back end of the deer. I mean, just kind of at the surface.
Right at the sphincter area.
Right.
Yep.
I mean, it doesn't go in that deep. I mean, you think that it'd be better attached than that, but
Yeah.
And
It's
then,
not much.
and then once you get it there, you pull it out 10, 15 inches, and you can cut it off, tie it off, and then from the inside, attached to the remainder of your innards, can pull that right out without getting any of that fecal matter on your meat.
It makes that starting process a little bit easier and cleaner.
Right.
and when used correctly, it's effective.
Very much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the key word, is effectively, because
Yeah,
I think a common mistake is people pull it, they pull it out and just keep pulling it out and try to pull it all the way through.
Yeah, it doesn't end. Not until the front of the deer.
I'd like to call the hotline and ask them how many common mistakes they've gotten. I bet you there's a whole list of pretty common mistakes for that.
I've talked to some people that, just like you said, Hunter, I pull it out until it ends. I'm just like, no, you don't. Because it doesn't end until the mouth of that deer. So what you're doing is you're pulling it until it breaks, and then that stuff is on the inside where you don't want it. Yeah. But I bought for my significant other, I can't remember if it was a Christmas gift or not, but it was a gift. And it was the predecessor to the butt out tool. It was green, same shape as the original, but it was a green plastic, and it was called the Derriere. And I caught, no pun intended, so much crap for getting that for my wife. And how on earth would you ever want to do it? Now, there were a couple of things wrong with that original Derriere. Is one, it was green, because if you lay it down in the woods, guess what?
Gone.
It just, it doesn't stick out like that orange either. And there was a convenient but not well thought out hole up by the handle, so you could attach a lanyard to it and wear it around your neck. Now, I'm not sure that I've ever thought about, well, where's that go? And now I'm going to hang it around my neck. Yeah. And I think the idea was it was easy to carry in and out of the woods. You didn't have to take up a pocket or anything like that. But after it's been inside that deer, it's not going around my neck.
Well, it's just, neck is reserved for the most important operations of the hunt, in my opinion. And that's just not ranking up there as the most important operation of the hunt. I mean, there's a lot more things that are more important than that.
But I will say it cleans off pretty quickly because where it's going is actually, it's a lot different than perhaps mammalian poop shoots, but it's up there. Now, that said, the rest of the story is my wife helped out with an adult ladies deer hunt, and the lady had one of the butt out tools and saw it in action. And boy, my wife has always been with one of those when she goes deer hunting now. It's just, it is effective at doing something that a lot of us don't like doing. But I did not in 100 years thought anyone would bring out the butt out tool. Aptly named.
Absolutely. And I think once you do it right, then you can do it the same way moving forward. That's one way you can keep consistent with your field dressing.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, every year when I go to do that portion, and I don't have one, every year I'm like, I need to get one, and then I just totally forget. So I can see that's kind of the premise of gifts, is that stuff that you wouldn't buy yourself.
That's probably right. Yeah. I used it one time, and I thought, that's just more stuff I don't really have to have. I never had a problem with a knife in there either, so I just didn't figure like that was a big deal. But
you've taught me, one, you're a pretty social hunter to begin with, and this is usually where Jeff will, hey, Jackson, do you bring a knife? I need to borrow this real quick.
Well, I don't want to use my knife for
here
that
it is.
operation.
You might want to clean that off before you put it back in your pocket.
Yeah, Hershey, don't cut that with that knife. I used that. I forgot to tell you. Oh boy. Yeah.
Oh, that's something else. Boots. Anyone gotten boots the last few years?
Yeah. Yep.
What kind of boots?
Well, these weren't. So I haven't.
Oh wait a second. These aren't going to be boots. Do you get this?
It's related to boots. Okay. So. Just bear with me. Bear with me.
We're going to see where
Jackson's
this goes.
Show. Here we go.
Yep. I haven't been gifted boots because I'm way too particular. I would have to tell them the exact make and model, and so yeah, I buy myself boots, but boot covers. So insulated boot covers, because when I deer hunt, I really like rubber boots, and rubber boots get cold, and even the insulated ones, they're going to get colder than regular boots would anyways.
I'm with you.
Yeah, I like to, even down into the sub freezing temperatures, uninsulated pair of boots, and then I take the Arctic Shield boot covers, and if it's really cold, I can take a hand warmer and toss it in that boot cover.
Do those work? Those Arctic Shield boot covers, they help?
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
I gotta get
rid of those.
Especially because when you're tree stand hunting, you got rubber on metal, and that metal is just sucking that heat right out of your boots. And so these, I swear by these boot covers. I'm a huge believer.
Which is kind of neat. They're pretty simple, straightforward, easy to get on, get off.
Yep.
Yeah, just not something you can walk in.
No, you wouldn't want to walk in with them. But they fold down flat, and a little zipper on the back, so you just slip them on, zip it up the back.
And they do help with the rubber boots, because I've almost pretty well written rubber boots off. I loved them. I love the ease of getting them on and off, especially those made of neoprene. You can roll them down and all that stuff, but it doesn't matter. Even with non-insulated, they sweat.
Yep.
And I'm cold.
Yep.
So
you sweat more, and then you definitely, as soon as you stop moving, the temperature starts to get just sucked right out of them. And that was my remedy, and I'm a believer.
Boots make a great.
Are those one size fit all?
I believe so. Yeah, they might make like an extra large, but no, I think mine are.
So there you go. Even for someone as picky as yourself, that'd be a great gift.
Yep.
Not a bad idea. What about you guys? Any recent boot gifts?
If the 5-year police are going to be tough on me, I'm not going to go there. Yeah, I've gotten boots, but I don't know if it's 5 years and 6 months or if it was 6 years. We're just not going to go there.
You kind of hurt his feelings.
Yeah, I don't know.
I got new boots. They weren't gifted to me like Jackson. I'm kind of picky with boots and shoes are hard to gift somebody anyways, but I got a pair of Bone Collector boots. I think they're $1,200 or $1,000.
Oh, warm ones.
They're warm ones, yeah. And I have no complaints about them. They've held up for probably 5 years now pretty well, and always keep my toes warm. So that's all I can ask for.
That's doing what they need to.
I must not be as picky in boots because I like getting them as a gift, but I think within my family too, knowing that sizes are involved and like insulated bibs or shirts or boots or anything like that, if it doesn't fit, we're okay taking them back and getting something that does and upgrading if you want or moving to a different style or something like that. But that's one of those things. Boots, they're great. I mean, they definitely make the hunt. Depending on what specific type of hunt you're on, whether you need waterproof, insulated, something kind of uninsulated for walking the uplands or something along those lines, those late season ice fishing, sitting on the stand in the single-digit weather type boots, but they're never fun to pay for.
No.
And they're expensive.
Well,
so that's where it's kind of fun,
sucks.
I think, either maybe getting a gift card going towards boots or those boots that you can take in, and if they don't fit or they don't work. Because I got a huge pair of well-insulated Rocky boots a few years back, and I use them probably twice a year. I've allowed other people, like Last Chance Deer Camp, they've worn them a time or two. Some of the folks youngsters that have come out there for their first deer hunt on those cold days, just wonderful. But, they weren't cheap. Mm-hmm. But to be able to have that and know I'm going to be warm sitting there, just kind of what you were talking about, Hunter, huge relief.
Yep. Agreed. I've always, and I feel like boots have gotten a little more expensive. I used to be about that $100, and then I got a pair of rubber boots that were $150. And this year, I've sprung for some stiff mountain, really hiking type boots, and the price tag on those, oof. I really hope they last. I really hope they last, because otherwise it's going to be a pretty painful one. But I did take them on the first hunt, and we put. In 4 days, I probably put close to 40 miles on them.
Oh, wow.
And I broke them in beforehand, and so far so good.
And when I was really hitting the uplands hard, it didn't matter how much I spent on a pair of boots. I'd get a season out of them. Yeah. And either wear through the leather, crack the seam, the waterproofness would disappear, just going through and just those toes going into the rough edge of those native grasses especially would just seem to wear them out pretty fast. That's
me and waders. I get like 1 to 2 years out of a pair of waders, and they're done. Yeah, and that's one of the things I hate buying. I hate buying waders. I like having waders, don't get me wrong, but I don't like buying waders because you're talking, $200-300 for a decent pair of waders, breathable waders. And next year you're probably going to, or 2 years down the road, don't get too cozy in them. You're going to be buying another pair. So that's tough for me. But that would be a good gift for somebody.
Well, there you go.
That'd be a good gift for somebody.
There you go.
Talking about waterfowl, what does every waterfowl want more of?
Decoys.
Oh, you can't go wrong.
And that's hard to buy. Yeah. To me, when you got like a trailer full of decoys, buying 6 more at $179 is tough.
So simplify it for those that might be looking to, maybe decoys are what they need to buy for somebody or as a present for someone that likes to go waterfowl hunting. Make it simple.
Yeah, buy a gift card.
Buy a gift card. Really? You're that picky about decoys?
I am. There's some that I like the right bases. I like the right look. I like the right paint job. And you get one of them wrong, and they sit in the trailer. I'm like, I want to put those. I just hate dealing with those bases. Jackson, are you kind of the same way?
I totally agree with full bodies.
Yeah, full bodies.
And floaters for the most part. If someone was like, I'm going to buy decoys for somebody, and I'm not sure of what they exactly like, silhouettes.
Yeah, silhouettes are never the wrong thing. You can never have too many.
I'd agree. I'd agree with the silhouettes. One, they're not that expensive compared to the others. I think they're just as effective at times. Don't take up near as much space. I'd say we probably overthink the decoy realism more than we need to, especially when it comes to waterfowl. Now, turkey, I'm all there.
Yeah.
Because that bird's walking in, stopping, looking, walking in, stopping, looking. They're paying attention to every detail. That duck or goose at 35, 40 miles an hour doesn't. I think there's more decoys made to lure the hunter and separate them from their visa than actually. Because if a silhouette can work, and I make most of my own goose decoys, folks, and they don't seem to care. I've had some of the fully flocked, full body realistic ones, and they'll go land with the ones that are flat.
You make most of your own goose decoys. Define that. I mean,
I make a lot of silhouettes. I've got probably, oh boy, I'd hate to even know now, but it's just fun. I mean, it's something you can do in the winter. You cut them out of some floor underlayment. I've got great big metal stakes for them. But I'd say 90% of my goose flock, field flock, I haven't got into the floaters or anything, are homemade. And if you're up close to them, you're going to look at them and sounds like turn your nose up at them, which is great. Perfect. Because my decoys look different than anybody else's. And so I've got, I don't know, probably 8 or 9 different poses that I've put together and it started out right out of college when I had no money and you needed decoys. And I wasn't going to buy the super magnums that were popular at the time. Nor, like you said, Jeff, am I going to spend $200 on 6 decoys? Because if you're going to need even 5 or 6 dozen, holy smokes! And then you got to buy the trailer to put them in.
You got to buy the trailer.
And then you got
a heck of a jump from 6
and with
decoys.
the flocked heads, you've got to keep track or take care of those heads, or they're not going to be flocked very long, and they hold scuff marks pretty darn well. I experimented a little bit with felt on the heads of some of my silhouettes, but it didn't seem to matter.
We're gonna have to do a podcast on types of decoys and decoy.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
That's gonna be upcoming.
The other thing that, and years ago, this is what kind of caught my eye, Hunter, is they did, and it was before the evolution of the drone. You could get good video and pictures from. Is somebody was actually up in a plane and they kind of flew over some different goose spreads, and the shells, they didn't look bad, but they all looked alike. The nice thing about the full bodies at that time, especially, and this was back when probably Bigfoot was king, and there were a couple other players as well, and Bigfoot's still around, obviously. But the nice thing was the height. You could see height. You could see shadows behind them. But again, back then, what did Bigfoot have? Like 4 poses? So it looked pretty much the same. You had the feeder pack, and then you had an upright, kind of a squatter head, and there might have been a third one in there as well. But the silhouettes, Real Geese, Outlaw were the name brands back then, and they had 6, 7 different poses, and it just looked different. It had the same shadows. Yep. But again, it was those geese, they can't, until they stop flying and fall out of the air, it all just kind of blends together. But anyway, I agree, silhouettes. Yep. Plus, they're easy to wrap. Because if you try to wrap a box of full bodies,
or individually, that's even
tough.
Worse.
Oh,
individually is worse.
That I know right away.
That I've learned.
Don't split the box.
What I've learned is a few years ago we got a 4-pack because there's 4 of us in our family. You don't even wrap them. You just take them out of the box. You put a little ribbon around their neck and you set them out in front of the tree, and it makes a beautiful beginning of Christmas Day photos. But I got to say, the full bodies that I have probably sit in the corner more than anything else now. I don't do a lot near as much goose hunting as I once did.
Waterfowl also opens up stocking stuffers, because there's little things that I've got for waterfowl that make a big difference. The floaters, a giant carabiner. For Texas rigs, you got gloves on, you're picking up the decoys with your waterproof gloves.
You can take a dozen out of the water pretty fast with the carabiner.
Yep, so that's a big one. If you don't have specific like wader pants that have that stirrup at the bottom for putting on waders, which I would recommend, but if you don't, the gator, the
little neoprene.
Yep, the little neoprene. Yep.
And this is something that I think that a lot of folks, they start out with those wader pants with the stirrup. I think they're missing out on the fun of proving gravity doesn't exist in all forms. Because how many new waterfowl hunters jumped into those waders, and all of a sudden their pant leg starts to defy gravity and starts working its way up your knee and all that type of stuff. I mean, your socks go down. They follow the rules of gravity, Hunter. They go down. They end up by your big toe. But your pant leg just slowly works up. So there's skin, and then there's wader, and then there's cold water.
Yeah.
Yep.
And when your pant leg gets away from your sock, you feel the cold water.
Oh, yeah.
But here's a trick to that, because this has worked for me. When I don't have my wader pants to put on under my waders, and I just got regular pants. I come from the office or whatever. I take guys used to do this in the 80s. They'd take their pant leg and they'd roll it. They'd roll it over, and then they could roll it up a little bit. And I don't roll it up, but I flip it over.
Yep.
And then I hold my hand on that when I put my leg in the boot, and then it just that pant leg is just caught all the way down in there, and it doesn't come out very easily. It doesn't rise out of the boot.
Having rolled my pant leg, because that was the anti-bell bottom. You remember that whole
Yep,
era
yeah.
was
We fought
tighter
the
and
bell
tighter,
bottoms.
tighter, and
Yep.
and so you rolled them. And being of that generation, I never realized that was a solution for wearing waders.
We were ahead of our time, Hershey.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. God bless the kids of the 80s.
But I gotta love the wader pants. They're fleecy. They move around. All that. I mean, it's
The
wonderful.
only thing about the wader pants that I don't like is like when you're on your way home, you kick off your waders and you got to make a run by the Walmart or something like that, and you're wearing just wader pants on. Some of those are just a little different looking. And going in there with your waders on, that's a whole different story.
To be honest with you, Jeff, I think you'd blend in. I really do. This is
haven't
a
found that to be
whole
the case
nother podcast. I met my brother and I met my mom down in I won't say it's Branson, Missouri, but it rhymes with Branson, Missouri. Is it a thing, people wearing pajamas out in public now? There were whole families down there in Christmas pajamas, wandering around, the shopping areas, the attractions, all that type of stuff. I don't think anybody down there would have noticed you in wader pants, Jeff.
I don't want to say Nebraska's the classiest state, but you're talking about Missouri now.
Well, yeah. I'm trying to pick up on hints. Do you want pajamas for Christmas now? Is that what you want?
No, I'm
you
just
hitting
I'm
saying.
trying to figure it out.
When did that change? But there's commercials of people running around in their pajamas right now. So it just, I wondered if I've missed something. Maybe there's a memo out there. All right, we gotta digress. Trail cameras.
Yep.
Those things have gotten. I don't want to say they've ever really fallen out of popularity. They've just gotten a little bit more high tech compared to the old white flash. 128 megabyte cards that you had to go check, the big D batteries and all that type of stuff. Good Christmas gift?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think so. I think trail cameras are something I've used occasionally in the past, and I think something that I want to use more going forward, especially now with the new cellular technology and, seeing camera shots in real time.
That's got to be impressive. So, I mean, there's a whole bunch of trail cameras out there on the market now. I mean, you got anywhere from like $40, $50 all the way, probably 300 or more. What are some common things to look for and pick out or select against when it comes to getting a trail cam for a gift?
I moved one way and I went to more expensive ones, and this year I'm actually kind of falling back a little bit. So I picked up some $30 Tasco trail cameras from Walmart, and I've been really impressed.
Oh, wow.
So as far as what to look for, the megapixel doesn't make or break it, but I'd recommend something 12 or over. A shutter speed somewhere in, a half a second to 1 second is pretty standard nowadays. At least 60 to 80 feet of capture, basically. Past that, I like camo. I don't know why they wouldn't make it. Some of those are real shiny, and I'll actually take Krylon camouflage spray paint.
And you paint the camera?
And I paint the camera. Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
That's hardcore there.
It's hiding them from not only the deer, but I don't want other people to know I'm there. I don't want people stealing my trail cameras.
I got to see Ellis Camel. That would be interesting to see.
It's a whole process. I spray it on a piece of cardboard, and I take a sponge, camo. Done.
It sounds a lot like that too.
He's practiced that.
But I think that's one of the things that is kind of challenging for some of those trail cameras. You do have a huge amount of spread in the price points, and everybody thinks it's camera, and you usually pay for glass and that type of stuff for quality. And there's times where I can't really make that out. I really want to be able to see if is that a bobcat, is that a house cat, is that a fox coming through here. But once you get a trail camera set up, even if it's a $300 one, the first thing you do when you get those pictures back and like, this is pretty cool, I want another one.
Yep.
And when you're talking, $100, $200, $300 for a camera, you're not putting a lot of them out there.
Not me.
No. You're on a different plane of hunting if you've got several $300 cameras out, and some people do. But
Yep. But I would also like a stocking stuffer. The little tree mounts, so you don't have to use the strap.
Yeah.
You can turn them, dang near 360 degrees, up, down, left, right. Those are really nice.
I think that's changed the game because some of the spots that I'm able to hang, overgrazed pastures or something along those lines, a lot of locusts. You don't want to be hugging those trees. No. And there's almost an act of throwing that strap around to catch it without having to throw your
I'm glad you said that because I've looked goofy many a time trying to catch that darn strap.
It's not fun. And having, then you get it clicked and all of a sudden, oh, wait, it's too much or not enough.
Yep.
You got to redo it. So have you messed a lot with cameras then, Hunter? Or
not too much. Mainly don't use them, but something now that I'm here in Nebraska, I think I want to start using them a little bit more. So I think I've got some good resources here for finding the right ones.
Got to say, when you've got somebody like Jackson that says, hey, this just walked past my blind, you kind of think, those trail cameras might work.
Yep. It does kind of sell it. Yeah. Guys, see this one? Well. Okay,
but it's the opposite too. I told you last week.
Well, yeah, it can work against you.
It works against you.
Yeah.
I think that it's one of those things that, especially stand site selection. Mm-hmm. All right, there's spots that look like they should be good. There's spots that are good, and you got to have a way besides just sitting out there because none of us have enough time to sit and hunt enough to say, yeah, this one doesn't work. But there's critters move around the landscape differently every week, much less every year. And sometimes you can eliminate a spot. I'm not going to waste the one morning I have to sit over here because I'm not seeing anything. I've used it. In fact, I've probably used mine more for, some other endeavors with raccoons and coyotes and things like that than I have necessarily deer in the last few years because they catch everything that moves past. But it's just kind of cool, too. It's almost like opening a present when you get to see those pictures. Is it a deer? Is it a big deer? Is it a bobcat? Is it something cool? We see people send us pictures of elk that are wandering through, or sometimes is this a mountain lion? And it's just kind of fun to see that. We all wonder what's going on out there in our hunting spots when we're not there.
Yep.
This gives you a little glimpse. So like I said, oftentimes just enough to say, man, I wonder what's around the corner. I wonder what's on this other trail. I wonder what's by this patch. What's behind that tree where I had this pointed east? What's going on the west side of that tree? Mm-hmm. So a lot of fun. All right, we got to kind of wrap this up. Last thoughts, gift ideas. Anybody?
Well, I hate to say knife, but a good knife is always a great gift idea.
Don't hate saying that. He's been holding that in his pocket the whole time.
Like a good knife. And I'm telling you right now, there's some knives out there you don't have to pay a lot for, like a case knife that's an heirloom quality knife, lasts forever, and they're just not that expensive. But a good knife, a hunter should always have a pocket knife and then a good sheath knife. And I think those are just the basics. And, of course, a fillet knife and a few others, that utility knives and whatnot. But either one of those, pocket knife, sheath knife, fillet knife, utility knife, they're all important to the hunter. The last thing I'll say is a good, you always need 4 or 5 of these, in my opinion, but a good headlamp. A good headlamp.
That's a good one.
As soon as you get a good one, you lose it. So you got to get a second one, back up. Then you got to have another one because you're going to lose that one. So a pair and a spare is pretty important.
Pair and a spare. Yep. That's pretty good. I like headlamps. Agree with the knives. Love. I got my son, and sometime my daughter will get one. Just a small buck knife, one of the sheath knives. So 110, I think it was.
Yeah, the little
wooden handle.
Yep.
Just neat, kind of something that'll last for a while, and just does amazing job on field dressing critters, especially deer. So
on that note, you got to keep your knife sharp too. So knife sharpener is small gift that can be used pretty widespread. If you're a big game hunter, a gambrel I think has come in very good use, especially if just you or maybe one other person that's hanging a deer, another game animal. They make wonders in hanging that deer.
They make ones that go into your hitch receiver now, and one of my good buddies swears by that. He's got a bad back, but he can load up his deer by himself. He can even debone it there in the field.
Well, and they've got some that kind of twist, right? So you can lift it up, twist it, drop it.
That's what he's doing.
Yep. That's smart, and getting smarter every year that goes by. So the one thing I'll toss out there is a buddy heater. Those things, you can find them a lot of places. They're great. You can use them this time of the year, whether you're muzzleloader hunting, ice fishing. We've used them camping and all sorts of different things. It gives you just one more reason to get outside and be comfortable. So, Jackson, we'll give you the last shot.
Everybody makes fun of socks. That's always the running joke, and I love socks.
Good socks.
Good pair of thick merino socks or good hiking socks. I'm kind of a sock fiend.
Merino wool, the more wool that makes up the makeup of that sock. What do I want to say? The more they use, the higher the percentage, the more warmth it's going to be. So we'll kind of end it right there. We'll wrap it up with a sock. So
cool.
Again, folks, we hope you have a great Christmas, Merry Holidays, all that good stuff. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast. Until next time.
Hunt Nebraska, brought to you by your Nebraska Game and Parks Commission.